So here was Kyle Shanahan talking about Trey Lance, Sam Darnold, and Brock Purdy all sharing a quarterback room.
Two guys who are talented enough to be taken in the top 5 of the draft, and we have another guy who played like it last year. So like the 3 guys we got, and I feel real fortunate with our 4.
When you're the San Francisco 49ers head coach, you talk about all your quarterbacks in the quarterbacks room forevermore, literally.
Oh my God. When I tell you guys that I've been waiting to make this kind of video for a very, very long time, just believe me when I say that. Because while I'm not gonna lie, we're currently sitting in what many would consider the dog days of the 2023 NFL season. Very luckily for us, OTAs and mini camps over the last couple of weeks and going forward have kept us somewhat occupied. And I'm telling you guys this right now, if there's one specific situation that you'll want to pay attention to over this time span, it is undoubtedly the San Francisco 49ers. Because, well, in case some of you out there might have forgot over the last year or so, Trey Lance is still a member of this team. And according to some reports, along with everything else that we've even seen and heard from the San Francisco 49ers themselves, some things could end up getting extremely interesting in the Bay Area. But before we go any further, today's video is brought to you by our friends at Ridge. Now, with Father's Day right around the corner, getting gifts for your dad can sometimes be difficult. But thanks to Ridge and their complete redefining of the modern day wallet, they've got you covered. Because with the Ridge wallet, expanding to hold up to 12 different cards at once, having additional room for your cash, and even 30 plus styles and colors to choose from, all while being as slim as possible, their wallets, along with their state-of-the-art key cases, might just be exactly what you need. So be sure to find the best Father's Day gift and go to ridge.com/digest to receive up to 40% off your order through June 15th. And if you somehow don't like it, the Ridge team is willing to let you test drive it for 99 days and receive a full refund if it's not for you. Once again, that is ridge.com/digest to get yourself the highest quality of products brought to you by Ridge. Okay, so to get back on topic with the San Francisco 49ers, even though sure, while most of the news and headlines that we've seen regarding this team have definitely had to do with the even deeper quarterback controversy that they almost intentionally created this offseason, but all of you San Francisco fans out there probably already know this, there are plenty of other reasons to actually pay attention to this team. I mean, for starters, just the fact in itself of giving Kyle Shanahan an entire offseason to build an offense around Christian McCaffrey is absolutely insane to think about, especially when you look at what he was doing last season when he was essentially just thrown into the mix mid-year. But then, even when you're talking about the other side of the ball for this team with some of their major acquisitions that were obviously headlined by adding Javon Hargrave to the front line, and also not to mention some potential sleeper picks that we saw from them in this year's draft that are really looking to only help them continue to maintain the dominant force that we've seen from them on this side of the ball over the last couple of years. But I mean, screw all that, right? Like, nobody cares about anything but the quarterback battle. At least that's what most of the media out there would imply to you. But the thing about that is that even though from the outside looking in as a neutral fan myself on the situation, with what's been going on recently, I've seen so many people leaning both ways between Trey Lance and Brock Purdy, and I would also love to hear what you all have to think of it in the comments as well. But again, if you're someone who does pay attention to the headlines, you'd probably know by now that despite Trey Lance making some noticeable improvements over the course of this offseason, and of course with his first legitimate shot at being the starter for this team being taken away last year due to the unfortunate circumstances, this is still essentially Brock Purdy's job to lose this season. I mean, hell, Kyle Shanahan had to practically say this straight up because he was sick of answering the same 10 questions about their quarterback room every single day. But to be honest, if you're not a fan of Kyle Shanahan saying this, in hindsight, I think it'd be pretty stupid to imply anything other than this, especially when you're considering the absolute absurdity that Mr Irrelevant was putting on display week in and week out, damn near all the way to the Super Bowl, and it might have even happened if it wasn't for the injury. But still, just because this was said, it obviously doesn't mean that Trey Lance still can't make his own case for QB1 as the weeks go on. And well, would you believe me if I told you that that case might have been getting stronger over the last couple of weeks? Now, before we dive just a little bit deeper into what we've been seeing from the 49ers in this offseason, there's definitely something that needs to be said. And it's that I don't care if it's minicamp, training camp, OTAs, voluntary workouts, whatever you can think of, there's only one rule for paying attention to the offseason, and I'm begging you guys to follow it, but don't overreact to what you are seeing. Because sure, while I guess you could say that Trey Lance hasn't necessarily had the picture-perfect offseason up to this point, damn near everybody at one point or another struggles in the offseason. I mean, I remember it like it was just yesterday when there was cause for concern for Patrick Mahomes' offseason interceptions. And that should tell you all you need to know. But when looking at Trey Lance as a whole from what we've seen, I think it's pretty clear that the drastic improvements are definitely outweighing the few negatives that we've seen. And for example of this, while it has been a very small sample size up to this point of actually seeing Trey Lance on the football field in meaningful games for this team, it's still pretty clear through watching the film that some of his key attributes like his ridiculous athleticism coupled with his arm strength are definitely the biggest reasons as to why he was a top 3 pick. But what also clearly needed the most work, being the raw prospect that he was, were much more complicated things to fix, such as his mechanics and his footwork. Which again, take this offseason film for what you will, but his footwork actually does look improved so far, which wasn't necessarily guaranteed coming off of his injury from last season. But if you pay even closer attention to his throwing motion, which most people would tell you was the biggest flaw within his game, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this, it looks better than it ever has. And a side-by-side comparison of his throw in the past compared to what it looks like now will definitely emphasize that point further. And ironically enough, to tie Patrick Mahomes back into this conversation, the work that Trey Lance had been doing with him and quarterbacks coach Jeff Christensen earlier in this same offseason, well, that could end up being the biggest reason as to why we finally see a breakthrough from Trey Lance that we've been anticipating. But the crazy thing about that is he's probably still not even going to see the field. Because while it seems pretty safe to say that most 49ers fans out there are still slowly anticipating the soon return of Brock Purdy, while yes, I do understand where all of the anticipation is coming from for those of you who do want to see what a Trey Lance-led offense could bring to the table for this team, I also couldn't agree more with what John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan are implying when they practically say, if it ain't broke with Brock Purdy, we're not going to fix it. And then of course, if San Francisco does end up taking that approach for this season, there's also the audience saying, well, if you're going to let Trey Lance sit the bench, why not trade him to get some value? And to that crowd, I'm simply just going to imply to myself that they haven't watched a single 49ers game over the last 2 seasons. And also not to mention, with what Kyle Shanahan showed us in the past, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that he's not going to be complaining in the slightest about having all of the different play styles and capabilities of his 4 quarterbacks in that room. Because, I mean, hey, we've all seen firsthand what this offense has been capable of, with that position being a revolving door in the past. So, I mean, as always, we'll just have to wait and see. Nonetheless though, you guys, like I said, I'm extremely curious to hear what you all have to think about the entire 49ers situation. So please be sure to let me know in the comments, what are you most excited to see about this 49ers team in the 2023 season? But also, thank you so much to each and every one of you out there for watching. I appreciate you all more than anything. You all know this, and I will see you guys in the next video.